Deputy Minister, Councillor Shongwe, and all protocol observed. We'll start with the panel for today as we launch the inland waters strategy. Other people call it waterways, and then as the DM was pointing out, we don't have waterways in South Africa. We have got a vast number of dams around the country. And then the question is that what is it that we are doing as government, as private sector, as well as the communities in terms of that vast potential around those dams. We have got oceans economy, which is also under the ambit of the Department of Transport. But then the question at the end of the day is that are we really making use and then exercising the full potential of those dams? And then for me, the answer is no. You have heard the Deputy Minister saying that the answer is no. I think we have also heard the Councillor from the Executive Mayor of Mesimahulu also saying that she would have loved to see her children around Mesimahulu embracing and then at least being able to see what is it that we can do around our waters. We have got a panel today that is made up of quite a number of speakers. I will give them a minute before I probe them to come into answering some of the hard questions. Over to you, Brigadier.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister and Executive Mayor and all colleagues. I'm Brigadier Maylon from the Division Visible Policing at the component Emergency Response Services. From SAPS, the inland water strategy is very important for us because it helps us and guides us to address the issues of safety and security at these inland water resources. And it's also in line with our national strategic plan. And it helps us also in regarding the collaborative and consultative approach towards this with the green and blue scorpions. That's basically it from us. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Deputy Minister, Honourable Deputy Minister, and all distinguished guests. I represent South African Sailing. I'm the Vice President. My job is, and my mandate is to look after all our yacht clubs and make sure that all our administrators, staff administrators that are here, to intermingle and communicate with government officials and our relationships between government officials. And one of the other core things that we do is ensure that our yacht clubs promote safety. I'll be discussing it a little bit later. I'll hand over to other people to discuss, but we're very honoured to be here and we look forward to a very successful day. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, I'm from South African Maritime Safety Authority. I'm the Deputy Chief Operations Officer. So I'm responsible for maritime operations. That includes enforcement as well as the Maritime Rescue Coordinating Centre. So in totality, including inland waters, SAMSA looks after 20 million square kilometres of territory, which is very small. So for us, the inland strategy is critical in terms of enforcing our mandate. And for us, it's about working together with our partners, our authorised agencies, our safety officers to help improve the standard of safety and prevent pollution and save lives. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Debbie Muir. Sorry, I am the National Coordinator from the Branch Environmental Programs from DFFE for aquatic weeds, and I'm also the Pesticide Risk Manager for the department. Our core mandate is the implementation of the control of invasive species, not just plants, but animals as well, on all water bodies in the country. We work quite closely as part of an intergovernmental approach with all government departments with regard to the control and implementation of invasive species on the dams, and also the containment of species moving from dam to dam. And unfortunately for us, from an environmental perspective, boats are the major vector of spread of invasive species from dam to dam. Hence, a containment strategy with regards to wash bays on all the dam systems and river systems in the country is a major priority, and that's where the cooperative inland water strategy is a huge positive for us, because we are then able to see where the species are moving from which dam to another dam. Our other main priority is employment through the EPWP program. Thank you.
My name is Mchunzi Matia from the Department of Transport, responsible for maritime transport. I think as a Department of Transport, we are the custodian of the policy and legislation. And that's the reason why we are here today. And I think our next step is to make sure that we capacitate our enforcement agency, SAMSA, to make sure that they discharge their responsibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Deputy Minister. We in the South African Police Service is guided by the Constitution and legislation. So everything we do is legally compliant. We cannot do anything outside. So we looked at all these things because previously we attended everything to everything by ourselves, and then we realized that for us to be successful, we have to include everyone. And everyone is meaning all the other government departments, private sector, NGOs, your public service, your community. And it took quite a few years. And one of the things we did was to create the community policing forums. And it is within our Police Act. It's not something that we just do. That's why I started with this thing to say everything we do, we must be legally compliant, because whenever something happens, we have to go and answer in court. Now, firstly, as was stated earlier, the responsible person within this area is the station commander. It's also written like that in the Constitution. And everyone else within the SAPS is there in support of the station commander. Everyone else within government is there for the station commander. So everything is built around that. For instance, the station commander has a weekly station commanders meeting. It's a policy. And there everything gets discussed. All the crimes that have taken place. The intelligence people can say what tendencies are there and what must be looked at and what approaches must be done. And with that, we cannot give every police station a water wing or a public order policing. It's financially not viable. But specific places do have that access. So we then, like in this area, the station commander has the dam, so they need support from our water wing that was created, as well as our divers. So they must also go to these meetings. And they must also then be linked to other government departments. Because this all goes up to higher level till ministerial level, where we have different clusters and things like that. But it's all government. And everyone plays their role and part. Because if we do not do that, we cannot succeed. So all those things are already in place with the different government departments. And it starts with the station commander. The station commander identifies the roles and responsibilities of that is required, and those departments are then included. And then the most important role player then comes in the community. Now that's where the community policing forum, we call it the CPF, is created, with a chairperson. And we have to account monthly, quarterly, annually to Parliament about the establishment, and they have a forum. The Auditor General comes and inspects those things to see if there's minutes, if the meetings took place, everything. So that's why, again, I come back to the thing that everything we do is legally compliant. Now, in those meetings, you identify certain things, where the station commander and the CPF chairperson sits and identifies crime-related issues. But they also look at what benefication is there for the community. Now, for instance, one of the issues that the Deputy Minister raised was drowning or drinking on boats. Now that we pick up this, the water wing comes with the problems of the drinking, the meetings with the green and the blue scorpions, they raise issues. And then, like in this case with the wash bays, there's certain problems, or how can we get the community involved? And that is where the community forum takes place. And then the station commander says to the different department, you must attend with us because we need to address this. And if they then need to take it further, they will take it to the necessary municipality or NGO or business and say, please come and assist us. And that is how we now link the community with all different role players. And basically, at the end of the day, is to create awareness. The community knows what's going on. It helps us with our problems that we are facing with crime and preventing crime and the safety and security of people. And it then also assists all the other departments, because we've got the best system with linking with the community. And then they jump onto they piggyback basically on the structures that we already have in place without duplicating it. And that way we can then address common goals within our own mandates and our own responsibilities. Thank you, Mr.
I'm pretty good at delegating, so you'll see there were many questions. I'm happy to be able to answer probably most of them. I've said a lot already, Deputy Minister. SA Sailing thanks all government departments and their heads for interacting with our Federation. SA Sailing, which facilitates and promotes safety in all our yacht clubs, inland and offshore. It's one of our jobs. It's a big job, it's a big responsibility. I personally thank all our yacht club commodores. Some of them are sitting around here. They're the actual gatekeepers of water access on a national level. We continue working hard with our relationships between SASCOC, SAMSA, and all government departments. Thank you. To answer a lot of your questions, I'm going to hand over to Anthony. He's got a little bit of a presentation that answers a heck of a lot of stuff. Is that okay? Thank you.
Honourable Deputy Minister, Honourable Deputy Mayor, wonderful. I feel very honoured to be here today and in your presence, and I hope to share a little bit about information about SA Sailing that will hopefully address some of the questions that were answered there around safety. So SA Sailing is obviously one of the associations or bodies recognised under SAMSA and given a mandate to look after boats, recreational boats, look after skippers tickets, recreational skippers tickets, and also to look at developing the community into sailing and into boating safely. So we don't only focus on sailing or boating, but one of the big key aspects is to do it in a safe and responsible way, always. From certificates of fitness on boats, we maintain a register and listings of recreational boats under 100 gross tons, under 9 meters, and we actually have safety officers that are trained by SAMSA, that do the examination with SAMSA, and then we appoint them as safety officers. SAMSA obviously appoints surveyors, we appoint safety officers for recreational boats. Safety remains a key factor, success factor. Throughout, we also have a national training program where we develop assistant instructors, senior instructors, and we teach safe and responsible boating from the age of 5, 6 years old on tiny little boats, all the way up to large offshore cruising boats, as long as they're under 100 gross tons. We also have a safety boat operators course that we run, very successfully around the country, and part of that is that any event that SA Sailing endorses or sanctions has to have safety boat operators on the water present for that event. We teach skills, for example, how to, and again, safety is all about, and I'll share that now with you, is all about being there before an incident happens. Making sure, looking at the weather, watching what is happening with boating, and to encourage safe and responsible boating from children from 5 years old. They learn the rules of the road, they learn the coal rigs, as we call them, all the way up to the bigger boating as well. Now, we also have to make sure there's a certain number of safety boats on the water to look after these children while they are boating. Some of the things that we take care of in the safety boat is obviously, we are safety, we're not rescue. NSRI is rescue. Safety implies avoidance, doesn't imply rescue. NSRI is rescue. Once the incident has happened, and obviously you also do a lot of safety as well, and safety training, then we have to obviously call you in and hand over our responsibility to you. We obviously look at very key things, again, with boating, from a very young age, from wearing life jackets to wearing your kill cord. If you're not wearing your kill cord, hopefully SAPS will get you. And then obviously life jackets and buoyancy aids, there's so many different kinds. I'm in a debate with Shamla over some of this at the moment. And I think the most important thing is to teach children how to wear these things properly. If a life jacket can lift over your shoulders, up around your neck, it's not a good life jacket. It's too big. So you've got to also teach them to wear the right size and how to don it properly. And you also got to teach them how to float with it. Because a lot of children, when they put a life jacket on, they still don't want to go to the water. I think in cooperation with SAPS, with NSRI, with SAMSA, with the Department of Transport and all the other bodies that are around our water and the communities, we have to always manage the access to the water in a safe and responsible way. We should be checking for skipper's tickets. We should be checking for competencies on certificate of fitness on boats. And we should not be allowing these boats to enter our waterways. They need to rather go away, sort out their paperwork, sort out their boats, sort out their skipper's tickets, and become qualified, safe and responsible boating users on our waters. And I think yacht clubs is a very, very key part of the cooperative inland water safety plan. And we look forward to working with everybody on it. Thank you.
Deputy Minister, thank you, CEO. I think I'm feeling slightly scared after that introduction. One of SAMSA's key roles is safety of people and property. It's not just about the people, it's about the property also, whether that is at sea or whether that is in inland waters. Now, we only have 40 surveyors in SAMSA. It takes about 17 years to train a surveyor because you have to go to sea and eventually come ashore and then get trained up as a surveyor. It's faster to train up a small vessel surveyor. If you look at the vessels that we are only doing about 28,000 vessels that are licensed and registered in South Africa in terms of annual surveys. But we do know there's about 1.3 million small vessels out there, and many of them are on inland waters. So if you look at the ratio, then you're looking at about one surveyor for every 30,000 vessels. So that's almost as good as the police. So what do we do? How do we give effect to our mandate? If it's such a vast territory, how do we do it? Well, we do that through partnerships. We do that through building up relationships. And those relationships start with our authorized agencies, with the user out there. And it starts with the SAPS, it starts with the DFFE. You know, that's how we give effect to it. Because if we can't be visible, then we have to rely on other people to be our eyes and ears out there. You know, they often say that SAMSA is the traffic cops of the sea. You know, so whenever you see a SAMSA boiler suit, people already start putting their hands on their heads and saying, oh no. But you know what, for me, if I can save one life at night, that's more than enough for me. We've had 53 incidences, casualties this year alone between April and September. And what scares me is that that is only the reported incidences. We're not even talking about the unreported incidences when it comes to small vessels. You know, we've had 9 deaths already in the small vessel industry between April and September. The last 3 was added on last weekend with the Jersey incident. So we can clearly see that we have a problem in South Africa. It's not maybe thousands of deaths that you have in a motor vehicle, but 9 deaths at sea is a big thing. You know, it takes years to train a skipper because you can get your ticket very quickly, but building up experience, that is what you need to keep yourself safe. So we rely on our authorized agencies who provide us 300 safety officers, and we also get 80 examiners from them so that we can train skippers and survey vessels. Without our partnerships that we've built up there, we will never be able to give effect to our mandate. We have created a boating manager position in SAMSA with 3 or 4 provincial provincial boating officers. They are there to try and work with our stakeholders to try and improve it. So if we can't survey vessels, then we can go to the authorized agencies and we can audit them. And we can see how well they give effect to the functions that we have, allocated to them. And we can help train them up to see, okay, new technologies have come up. There's new ways of surveying a vessel. Have you guys considered this? Let's look at that. And in that way we can try and improve the standards of surveying and auditing to be able to save lives. As I said, 1 life lost is 1 too many. SAMSA is also working towards training up skippers, so we've tried to work up some partnerships with some local schools also, so we can get skippers trained before they even leave school. In that way they can already enter the job market with a qualification. Although it's the small vessel industry, which most people never think about, but there's lots of opportunities in the small vessel industry. As earlier stated by yourself, also, you can go into the market in a fishing vessel. You can go, on fishing charter vessels. You can go in all sorts of industries, the boat building industry. That's how we create employment. That's how we create jobs. We focus on not the easy stuff. We focus on the difficult stuff. So with us working together through our partnerships, we can go out there to where the Wild West is, the Orange River, the other dams that we never get to see. Because sometimes we don't even want to know what happens out there. That's how scary the situation is. But I know with the Inland Water Strategy, with working with the DFFE and other like SAPs also, we're trying to improve it through enforcement officers. So we are busy training up a lot of enforcement officers as well. We've trained up some of the DFFE guys to help with enforcement. We're going to be training some of the SAPS guys very shortly in terms of giving effect to our mandate through enforcement. And that is how we become visible. That is how we make a difference. So that's SAMSA, madam. Thank you.
National Aquatic Weed Strategy, you must understand that with invasive species is regulated through our National Environmental Management Plans as well as our National Environmental Management Biodiversity Act. So all the species that are regulated through the NEMBA regulations as regarding invasive alien species, we are mandated to control those species. Now there are various ways that we can control those species. We can either do a pesticide control, so we spray them, or we can manually remove them, or we can control them using biological control, which are insects that can eat the invasive species. So what we do is our other core function is EPWP, or employment from local communities. We currently create 260 to 280 jobs, some of them are seasonal, for the control of invasive species with either chemical spraying from boats or from manual removals. Now as you can see, the Vaal Dam at the moment, there's no floating macrophytes, so there's no species on the Vaal Dam like you would experience on Hartbeespoort Dam. And if you look at Hartbeespoort Dam, I'm going to use it as an example, like the acting CEO of SAMSA used as an example. There was a species on Hartbeespoort Dam called water hyacinth. There is no water hyacinth left on Hartbeespoort Dam thanks to an integrated approach. I see someone laughing, but the new species on Hartbeespoort Dam is called Salvinia minima. It's green, yes. It is a new species that has been entered the country in the last 2 years. It's an aggressive invasive species from Brazil, and unfortunately there is no pesticide registered for that species. There's no biological control for that species. So there's a problem with that species. It's a very small species, so manual removal of that species unfortunately is not viable. So you cannot do a chemical control on a species if there's no herbicide registered for that species. So we are currently in the process of getting a herbicide registered for that species, but that is a mandate of another government department called the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, who does the registrations of pesticides for species in this country. So that process is not within our mandate, but we support that. Hence intergovernmental cooperations between departments. The biological control for that species, Sylvania minima, was brought into the country and submitted into quarantine in March of this year, but it still has to go through the research and development phase, so that the release of that biocontrol agent onto that Sylvania minima on Hartbeespoort Dam probably only happen next year, because the research and development will take anything between 12 and 18 months, and that is short in the lifespan of R&D for a biocontrol agent. So that answers the Hartbeespoort Dam questions. When you're looking at the Vaal Dam at the moment, there's no sort of EPWP kind of work for the Vaal Dam. There's some submerged species on Hartbeespoort Dam, but nothing that is registered as a NEMBA or an invasive species. You have some cosmopolitan weeds like Persicaria amphibia and Potamogeton, but they are not registered invasive species, they're just weeds. So unfortunately we cannot assist because they're not registered invasive species. But on other dams where there are submerged invasive species, we do employ EPWP workers from the local communities through the local municipalities. So our employment is through local municipalities where we employ the workers. We don't employ the workers directly as the department. We will employ via the municipality a contractor. The contractor, which is also an EPWP community person, will then employ the workers. We will then pay the contractor pays the workers. So that is the EPWP model that the department will then implement. So if there is in any stage a invasive alien species on the dam, that is when we will then become active on the dam. Hartbeespoort Dam does have invasive fish species, and I do know that any fishermen, any fishing fraternities will not be very happy with us if we start removing the largemouth bass, which are registered and listed on NEMBA, the smallmouth bass, which are registered on NEMBA, the sharp-toothed catfish, which are registered on NEMBA, etc. But we do have EPWP programs which do also net that, and we are involved in the Operation Pakisa programs with the employment of the netting of fish, and in those programs the catch does go to the local communities. So in those kind of programs the department is involved through Operation Pakisa for the benefit of the local communities. So in those kind of situations we do get involved. When we talk containment strategies, it is for the removal of invasive submerged aquatic weeds. Those are the ones under the water that you can't see. All those are vegetative fragmenters, which means a little piece attached to the bottom of the boat or the bottom of the trailer of the boat, the propeller in the live hull, which is attached to the fishing line, the hooks of the fishing line, etc., can then be moved to other dams and can then become invasive on other dams. An example that we pick up, we do as part of the wash bays where we employ the local community to do the actual washing of the wash bay. It's not just with a normal hose. We call it as a tongue-in-cheek a free wash of your boat, because we employ the EPWP workers to wash the boat. But it's not just that, it's with a high pressure hose. The herbicide that we use to treat the invasive species that comes off the boat is not in the high pressure spray rig that is used to wash the boat. It is in a properly designed wash bay, which is built and developed by the Department of Water Sanitation. The herbicide is in this pit. So the boat gets washed with a high pressure spray system. The water, including the bits or fragments of the species, goes into a pit. It goes into the wash pit, and the herbicide is in the pit, where then the species then gets controlled. When the pit fills up with water, the water then flows back into the dam. So we have a reticulated system where the water is not wasted. It goes back into the dam, but the water has already then been treated, so the water goes back into the system. So it has been properly designed by the construction crews within DWS. So that is all the wash bays. We have with the assistance or in conjunction with DWS, developed and implemented 5 wash bays on 5 dams cut so far, but it is a phased approach where wash bays will be implemented on all the dams across the country, and this was implemented and signed off with the first implementation of the Cooperative Inland Water Safety Program going back to 2015. So, and this is in the resource management plans for all the dams. As the RMPs get signed off by the Minister of Water Sanitation and gazetted, the wash bays and containment strategies are included in the RMPs, and then becomes the responsibility of the dam management committees to implement. The construction of the wash bays are the responsibility of DWS, and the management of the wash bay is the responsibility of DFFE. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. Maybe before I commit myself, I want to give context of why we are here today. South Africa is a maritime nation, and we derive our mandate from the International Maritime Organization. And as a country, we are also responsible and the owners of the Merchant Shipping Act. And part of the Merchant Shipping Act is to make sure that there's an existence of SAMSA, South African Maritime Safety Authority. And we need to capacitate SAMSA so that they can be able to discharge its function. Maybe if I were to talk a bit more on the regulation itself, why it's in existence today. It was a reactive approach into this regulation because we lost lives. I think it was in Witbank. It was a Christmas party. So in terms of the act, if there's a fatality that has occurred, whether at sea or in the dam, the Minister of Transport is required to institute the Marine Court of Inquiry. And part of the recommendations that were made by that the Marine Court of Inquiry was to recommend to the Minister for the department to develop an inland water strategy. Unfortunately, we don't have inland waters, we are not Europe. The inland water strategy, to make sure that part of the pillars of the strategy is the awareness. Hence, we are here today. There were some processes that we had to follow up until we got a mandate from the cabinet that approved that inland water strategy. And that's why we are launching, that's why the Deputy Minister is here today to launch this strategy. So part of that is to do this awareness. And Department of Transport is synonymous with road safety strategy. But now we are taking that fight into the waters through the awareness. So, Madam Chair, to come back to your question, what is it that we need to do as a department, or how do we respond to this issue, particularly for this community? We want all the communities, especially the communities that are surrounded by these beautiful dams, to have a safety culture. Drink and navigation is not allowed. It cannot be allowed because it hampers your ability to make correct decisions. Out of one of the reports of the Marine Court of Inquiries that we have received as a department, the committee concluded that if the skipper had applied the basics, they would have saved those lives. I think we had lost about, the one captain that happened towards the False Bay, we lost about 9 lives. because to make that decision by the skipper to say please jump or not to jump. All the, Anil said seafarers, all the people that were on that boat, they jumped just because they thought the boat was capsizing. But if they had stayed on board, those lives would have been saved. So we want, as a department, together with our partners, especially intergovernmental, I think Deputy Minister is a brilliant approach, intergovernmental government working together. We want, especially for this community here, to have that culture of safety, because it will take a lot of time for us to build the capacity as a department together with SAMSA to have an office here. Ideally, we will want SAMSA to be capacitated to the extent that they can be able to have office next to each and every dam, so that the response time in terms of compliance can be increased and improved. Thank you, Madam Chair.